This is an example of using the 9211A sampling oscilloscope to make measurements on a high-speed serial data waveform. In this case, the data encoding is returned to 0. This particular signal is not to any national standard, but we can still use the instrument to make measurements on the signal, and indeed we can perform an eye diagram test. So I'm going to first of all just select 2 pulses from this stream, and then we'll go ahead and make some measurements on the waveform. So I'm just going to highlight 2 pulses here, click inside. So here we have 2 zoomed examples of the waveform. So I'm going to go into the eye diagrams menu and say this is a return to 0 signal, and we can perform X and Y measurements. So first example is going to be for an X eye diagram, and I'm going to try and measure the eye width. So here we see it's chosen the first pulse, so I'll just move that into the center of the screen. So here we've got the left opening and the right opening, and it's gone ahead and made an automatic measurement for us and telling us the eye width of this particular signal is 4.9 nanoseconds. We can also do amplitude measurements, so turn off that measurement, return back. So I'll select Y parameters, and here I'm going to measure the eye height. So now we have an eye height measurement of 163 millivolts. Again, we can see some red bars here, and this is where the measurement is being made. So we can go into the defined parameters, and by default it's using 20 to 80% for time measurements, and the left and right boundaries are set to 15 and 90%, and this is the left boundary and the right boundary. So if I decrease, that's it, and bring the measurements in, and bring this in to say 80%. So we brought the 2 measurements in, so we're only measuring the amplitude here. So the amplitude's now gone up to 201 millivolts. So it's possible for the user to define where they actually would like to make their measurements on these particular waveforms. When you finish making the measurements, you can turn them off and go back and select measurement parameters off and put it back to the main display. So that's an example of using the measurements on board on a return to 0 signal.